So hello and welcome, or as we say in Czech Republic, vítejte, to yet another issue of Sociology in podcast brought to you by International Sociological Association. My name is Lucie Vidovićová. I'm the president of RC11, Sociology of Aging, and also representative of Czech Sociological Association. Today with me is Associate Professor Radim Marada from the Department of Sociology at the Faculty of Social Studies at Masaryk University in Brno, Czech Republic. And we will be talking about history, current times, and maybe future challenges of sociology in Czech Republic. Welcome, Radim.
Thank you for inviting me. Hello.
Lovely to have you. So let's start with the history. What would be kind of the historical important points of sociological thinking in Czech Republic?
In Czech Republic, the Czech or Czechoslovak, but it was mostly Czech-based sociology, has a long and troubled history. Actually, we may come back to it later because it brings some ramification also until today. It's a relatively long history for a small Central European country. It was already in 1921 that people could study for university degree in sociology. That is not just, establishing a chair within some other departments, a chair in sociology, but sociological departments were starting to operate in Czechoslovakia, the post-First World War Czechoslovakia, the new state, in Brno and in Prague very early in the 1920s. And the Sociological Association was established in 1925, and the first specifically sociological journal, which is also not that usual, was established in 1930. Actually, the same year and the same day and the same name, Sociological Review, as Florian Znaniecki has opened or started the Polish Sociological Review.
Wonderful. And what would be the big names from this era that would be even in the textbooks for today's students?
Probably the most significant, probably the most significant, is impactful figure in the early ages of Czech sociology was Innocence Arnold Blaha, who opened and chaired the Department of Sociology in Brno at Masaryk University. There were other sociologists like Ludwig Josef Fischer or Emanuel Chalupny in Prague, who all took part also not just in the development of an establishment, institutional and intellectual establishment of sociology, but also in public life and public political life, in state building. There was the new statehood of the Czechoslovak state, and so they were very much interested in questions like education and national identity and national disposition. But they did it critically. There was nothing celebratory in it. They were in the right sociological tradition. They approached the questions of the day with a critical mind and critical insights, but always with the ambition to help establish, a healthy society, if we want to call it like that. What is also important and interesting is that the political figures and the political climate was quite conducive and supportive to the first years of establishing sociology in the new country. Tomáš Garrigue Masaryk, the first president, was at home in humanities, and he was very knowledgeable in sociology. He knew Max Weber and Durkheim and others, and he was inciting and encouraging the new sociologists. He knew them personally, most of them, like Blaha or Chalupny. He discussed with them, and he was very supportive. And also the second president of the interwar Czechoslovak Republic, Edvard Beneš, just like Innocence Arnold Blaha, he was a student of Durkheim's in the early 20th century in Paris at Sorbonne. So the environment was quite, supportive, as I said, and even one of the historians of Czech sociology, Zdeněk Nešpor, published a book called The Republic of Sociologists, which is a little bit hyperbole, but it points to the status of sociology, however new and limited in terms of scope that field was at the time.
Could it be somehow compared to another big historical moment for the Czech Republic or Czechoslovakia, the change from communist times to new capitalism or whatever we want to call this, and the role of sociology?
Yeah, but let me say before I get to the point that you raise. There is a book for the international audience published in 2017 on Czech sociology, written by excellent Prague sociologist Marek Skovajsa and Jan Balon, and they cover the whole history of sociology since the interwar period, let's say communist rule between 1948 and 1989, and then the development after regime change. And and the communist rule times, that was the troubled part of sociology because it was labeled as a bourgeois science. So it was closed. The departments of sociology were closed in the early 1950s. They were reopened in mid 1960s. They were closed in 1950s, reopened in 1960s, and closed again in the early 1970s, and reopened under the label of Marxist-Leninist sociology in late 1970s. So the legacy, the development of the discipline was pretty much interrupted. Yeah, and it was an environment that did not really provide encouragement for critical thinking and critical sociology. I was lucky to study in Brno under Jaroslav Střítecký in the second half of the 1980s, and we did not, we were not that affected by the atmosphere, but we basically felt like some dissidents, Ivo Možný, who could not teach legally, was teaching us behind locked door, and so we felt sort of like dissidents, this underground sociology. It was not exactly that, but the freedom of discussion, openness, that was remarkable. Before that, I studied the Prague School of Economics, and it was a different universe. So not everything went south or down during these times. There were excellent sociologists who studied and helped reestablish the discipline in the 1960s, like Milan Petrusek in Prague, Václav Bělohradský, who then went to exile, Ilya Šrubaš, Jiří Musil, who just like Milan Petrusek stayed in the country. Milan Petrusek couldn't teach. He couldn't be active publicly as a sociologist, but he was very also influential intellectually for those lucky who were able to meet with him, and he was very supportive. And in Brno it was Ivo Možný, Jaroslav Střítecký, who basically shielded that, and he was my teacher. And he provided for this, open and critical atmosphere, which was for me, it was unbelievable. When I came from Prague, I was silent the first half year because I didn't know whether there is some secret police among us or whatever.
Yeah, but the very strange times.
Anyways.
But I started to study in 95, and I could still meet some of these giants of the thoughts of sociology, and it was very also interesting. We are still very small school, but we already could kind of benefit or still could benefit from presence of these names. But it already started kind of, would you say it was different when I started to study in the 90s? 1990s, or was it still kind of this new wave of freedom and could we already by then expect how big this will grow as we see it today, as we are in times of almost massive social studies and mass media?
No, it was extraordinary time, and the level of freedom or perceived freedom, how you can teach, what you can teach without some expectations of a backlash, from students or from some authorities. That was for us who studied in the 1980s. That was unprecedented, of course. The 1990s was a really exciting time for sociology, and that was the time where we were re-equipping or equipping the libraries with newer sociological production, because when I was a student, the last sociological book in sociology, or sociological book in the library, was the newest one was from the late 1960s in English or in German. And so that was the institutional sort of revitalization. New departments of sociology started, and also international support, which was important. We could go to study abroad, and the international scholars were coming in much larger numbers. So that was the time.
It was done. Now we have sociological departments not only in Prague, and several of them, in Brno, Olomouc, Ostrava, Hradec Králové, Plzeň, maybe some more. What would you say are the greatest challenges for today's sociology, vis-a-vis students, or how we are asked to teach and produce the knowledge?
Challenges for sociology, I would say the main challenge is the public reputation of sociology in Czech Republic, but also elsewhere, which is often a discipline that is perceived as subversive or some kind of not or impractical at best, if not spoiling the youth and these things. So the public statute of sociology is quite different, I would say, from the interwar period. But I don't think that's specific to the Czech Republic. And it's I don't want to exaggerate it. It's not yet that much of a pressure, but you can feel it, the public degradation of sociology and looking down on sociology, which does not always transpire in other institutions, state or private institutions, interest in cooperation, which is a good thing. And if that's a challenge, how to reach out beyond the boundaries of sociological discipline and the academic world, there are some positive developments there, definitely. So that's the public role of sociology. And then for teaching, that's like any other discipline. There is AI. So we all have to, not just sociology and not just in Czech Republic, everywhere, reconsider what we teach, how we teach it, why we teach it, how to make the students more clever than the artificial intelligence, not to get in a trap. And so that's the challenge. And it's a challenge for publications, for reviewers, that's a new thing, but these two basically, but there's nothing specific for Czech sociology or sociology in general.
Mm-hmm. Would that be also somehow reflected in the how to put it, in the how we produce, how we publish. No, let me rephrase that, because we do have, as you already mentioned, some very old journals in sociology. There are some that are more quantitative oriented and publish surveys, but others are more into qualitative interviews and qualitative data analysis. Would you see some difference how these develop and how also maybe the pressure on us to publish, despite having all these AI tools now, mixing this a little bit? But what is the tradition of publication in Czech Republic, and or is there still a need to have actually journals in Czech language when we live in a global world?
Yeah, I think it is important. It is important for also addressing the publics that is not fluent or used to read, or which does not have access to international journals. So it is still important. Also, if you want to see what are the main areas of interest of current Czech sociology, you go to the Czech Sociological Journal, and that's and you get a lot of information there, especially about the grant-supported the grant production. But it's complicated also by the fact that the people, the scholars that work on the project don't get really a full or something close to full picture of Czech sociology from the journal. But yeah, it is important also, not just for knowledge what's going on in institutional sociology, but also for some intellectual inspiration and intellectual impact. So there are two sorts of impacts, this impact factor published internationally or in the Czech sociology. I think last time I looked, it is 0.7 impact factor. But there are different outlets, sociological, without this. Maybe they have ambition, but without the status of an impact factor journal, and often you find more interesting, more courageous, intellectually courageous texts there, like biograph or social studies, or there is a journal also which is not sociological, which is called Science and Words and Meaning, which is published, which is a literary journal, literature and linguistic. But I found lots of very interesting texts which are sociologically minded or outright sociological published there. So yeah, if you want impact factor, you go to Czech Sociological Review or international journals. If you want to be read with interest, because it's not only me, of course, my students also read from these lower level journals in terms of academic status, you'd better publish in Biograph or elsewhere.
Interesting. Does it or do you have some recent favorite topics that caught your interest in the sociological field, whether in Brno or elsewhere? What is now buzzing in the sociology in Czech Republic?
You mean current topics?
Yes.
Current topics.
Yeah.
When I look at the production, sociological production, it's pretty diverse. I would have a trouble to identify some dominant streams, some dominant themes or topics, or areas of interest. It's pretty diverse also thanks to the fact that a lot of the research is simply conducted internationally. in cooperation with international institutions. There are projects which are international, and there are publications that stem out of cooperation with a colleague elsewhere in the world, not just in Europe, in Chile, in the United States and elsewhere. So I wouldn't say there is a dominant topic, but or area of or some dominant areas of sociological interest. But what caught my attention, which was your question, and which somehow I look to and I see as a promising project, is, for example, the relatively new, opened in 2023, Literature and Society Laboratory, which is an interdisciplinary project, an interdisciplinary group of scholars, especially young scholars. Jan Váňa is the most prominent sociologist there, which look at the sociology of literature, beyond the confines of the old or rather conventional sociology of literature, or literary studies. Yeah? How people perceive the texts and how they digest, how literature is actually becoming part of the social tissue, and without, of course, exaggerating the role of literature, but it's still something that's very interesting to follow and research. So that would be one of the what caught my attention. Then there are new projects and or new areas of interest, relatively new, not that new. That's the medical sociology, which is being taking roots and within the sociological community for some time already, 2 decades. But today, one of the leading figures, I don't want to omit anyone, but is Dino Numerato in Prague. Also the cooperation with biologists, which Eva Schlesinger does, and also cooperation with non-academic institutions like urbanists, or the medics, as I said. Yeah. So this would be those which caught my attention, but these are projects, several out of many others. They are just within the scope of my interest and the ability to register what's going on in Czech sociology, because just like anyone else, I am more sort of oriented to the international production.
Astrid, I have to ask you, because I know you have one particular field, so to speak, and pun intended, how you approach your own teaching of sociology. You are using one particular sport to teach.
Yeah, football, my love. Sociology and football, yeah, the 2 loves of life. Yeah, I've been teaching it for like 5 or 6 years, not that long, and on the undergraduate level. And I'm basically teaching sociology of football under the name Football and Sociology, which captures much better the intention and design of the course. And it's basically an introduction to sociology via football. So yeah, we speak a lot about football, lots of videos and pictures and so on. But it all is designed to serve the goal, the aim, to make people acquainted with sociology and sociological things, sociological themes, lots of historical things there. And so we speak about football stadiums in terms of iconicity and urban development. We speak about migration, and all the stuff.
That's very clever. I really enjoy that. Thank you very much. Is there something we should say about sociology in Czech Republic, or Czech sociology, or Czech sociologists before we close up? Is there something that should be still noted?
Actually, quite a lot of things, but what comes to my mind is that what I register, whether it's a false impression or not, but it's still more and more sort of evidence for that impression that the inventive research is moving a little bit from universities to research centers that are not or research institutes that are not directly affiliated with universities. They are research institutes within universities, but and there is a lot of interesting stuff going on there as well. But if I were to look for a really inventive, inspirational research in sociology, I would first look to Academy of Science, to CEFRES, the French Institute for Research in Social Sciences, and other institutes, where we see still more and more young people, younger scholars, younger colleagues, moving to and conducting a really good and nice research. So that would be one observation, which may be discussed, countered, I don't know, and yeah, the public role of sociology. I think we've tackled it already. What was symptomatic for the public status of sociology and public visibility of sociology was the COVID pandemic. During the COVID pandemic, on the peak of the when it was an issue, a public issue, and an issue that really attracted attention of almost everyone, you would find the most salient voices in the media, the public voices, rather in the mouth of an Egyptologist or entomologist, but no sociologist really. Yeah, they came later with academic articles, with some commentaries, but during the pandemic, people were taking part in different discussions. But when I'm speaking about the sort of mainstream, if we can speak about mainstream today of the media, but the TV stations, the most watched TV stations, the sort of legacy media, newspapers like Idnes and so on. It was very little, almost nothing sociological, or no sociologists there. Yeah, and I'm sorry to those who appeared, who had their contribution to that heated discussion about all the ramification of COVID pandemics, but I remember the Egyptologists and entomologists. So that's I don't know. That's the contrast between our times and the maybe too glorified time of sociology between the two world wars. Yeah, but definitely there is a difference. Yeah? But at the same time, there is also some trickle-down sociology. Speaking of public impact, yeah, we have definitely sociologists still participate in policy making, which, however, is an endeavor that itself would deserve a sociological inquiry, a sociological, research, because when you do policy-oriented sociology, and we are part of the policy-making apparatus with other disciplines and people from especially on the state level, then you have to think about the current political atmosphere and climate, when every change of government basically means an earthquake, a reorientation of the country. I mean, the United States is just a paradigmatic example, but it's not only the United States. Yeah. So what happens with it? The policy is, formulated, the papers are done, the documents are submitted, and so on and so forth, and then new government comes, and it's just, because there is almost no agreement on what education is about, how to approach, what to do with education, public health, vaccination, and these things. Not just international relations. But wherever you look, there's this lack of common ground, I would say, which of course is a challenge for the policymakers, including sociologists. But fortunately, as I said, there are other levels of reaching out, the cooperation with other institutions, academic, non-academic, and then there is this trickle-down sociology that is, producing critically minded students and those who leave sociology and then who work in different institutions, and they work as journalists with media or independently. And we've known a lot of examples of people who studied sociology and conduct good analytical journalism, for example, with insight, with discipline, with the methodical discipline, but also with this critical mind, with the ability to associate different streams of what's happening in the world. So yeah, but that's not measurable. That's difficult to measure, but it's a very important part of sociological of sociology or task of sociology.
And I would even say it's one of the biggest challenges for our students as we are sending them out to the world out there, and they are our future. They are the future of sociology. So thank you very much for all your interesting insights and for sharing with us about sociology in Czech Republic and Czech sociology. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attention, and hope to see you soon at some of the meetings of International Sociological Association. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. My pleasure.